Okay, everyone, welcome to the Mind Body Energy Project. Hey,
Hello. Hi, Yolanda.
hey, Tiffany. Um, Before we get into today's topic, as always, just want to check in with you real quick, honey. How has your week been?
I've been battling a cold again.
Oh,
Yeah, not happy about it.
hmm.
So, ups and downs with that, you know,
Yeah,
but what can you do? Apparently, it's happening to a lot of people this
yeah.
winter
Someone else I
season.
know is sick too right now.
Yeah.
Getting my asana right. Um,
But
you know,
that's okay. We still show up here to do what we got
yeah,
to do.
we do. I've been
In
up
sickness
since
and in health.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 a.m. and it is late.
And typically, we wouldn't necessarily record in this state for everybody. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Great. I'm glad I know how to connect and disconnect all my Apple products. Oh goodness. Anyways, it was on silent, but anyways, God, I lost my train of thought. Fuck.
Okay, welcome to the Mind Body
Oh
Energy
yes,
Project.
yes, yes.
Take two.
Yeah, take two. Okay, so typically we have it a little bit more together. But we just didn't have time, so the time crunch forces us to do it when we got to do it. So as always, you get the raw version of everything that happens on the Mind Body Energy Project as it is.
Yes, totally. And
Hmm.
like, yeah, it was a really busy, crazy week. I just got back from LA from a 4-day Reiki retreat, and whoa, Nelly. Like, I'm surprised my eyes are open and
Yeah.
words are coming out of my mouth
Do you
right
just want
now.
to sleep for the next 4 days now?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bet.
And what's so funny is yesterday primarily we did like a lot of chanting and this type of thing. And during the last chant, I was like, oh crap. And because I knew like, oh man, I'm about to freaking purge. God dang it. Right? So I was like, oh yeah. So like I'm ready to yeah, anyway.
Purge
So
it out.
today I did like a 90-minute meditation of
Ooh,
just
nice.
like listening to some like chanting and trying to just smooth it all out,
Oh, that
hoping
sounds lovely.
that it's not. Anyway, hi.
That's a great segue actually into our topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Yes. So why don't you tell us what we're talking about this week?
Okay, I apologize if my cough drop gets in the way. Um, so our topic this week is coming out of the dark.
Yes, honey, sing it.
Yeah. You know that song, right?
No,
Gloria Estefan.
nope. I know the rhythm is
Oh.
gonna get you.
Yeah, it does get you. The rhythm does get you.
Well,
Yeah,
this
she wrote Coming Out of the Dark after her bus accident. And wasn't she like semi-paralyzed? Why aren't you up on your 90s pop culture, Yolanda?
yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
I
all
don't
right.
remember
It's
that
okay.
one. I missed
I'll let
it.
it go.
But
Anyways, Coming Out of the Dark. That's our
and
topic.
this was requested by one of our patrons.
Hmm. Thank you very much. We
Yes.
appreciate the direction in life
Yes.
and
An
the support.
MBE insider. Thank you for
Yes.
your support in
Yes,
many
that
ways.
support as well. Yeah, yeah. So coming out of the dark night of the soul, I guess we should talk about what the dark night of the soul is and ways of dealing with high stress times and depression or the perceived dark sides of things. Because I think we all do have a tendency from time to time, and maybe a lot of times, to just get caught under that burden of the weight of the dark stuff.
I think one of the first things, I know we're going to talk about what it is, but I just want to say this so I don't forget because, my mind today
Hmm.
is not reliable.
It's okay.
Um, One of the first things I want to point out in this is that really, really taking accountability for like we do have choice in how we deal
Yes.
with stuff. And I think a lot of times we like to, say or like, and I'm not saying like I know like depression is like clinical and some people have like a deep suffering that's hard to come out of. And that, I'm
Hmm.
not talking about that. I'm talking about other states of high stress or, whatever it is that we may go through where we do have choice, but sometimes we elect not to acknowledge that for whatever reason. And just, anyway, I just want to throw out there that a lot of times, like, you really do have choice in how you navigate this. So,
and I have,
for you?
I want to say this before I forget it, because I also forgot my notebook. Just, anyways, because I want to implant this in your brain so we can come back to it also before we get into the dark night of the soul. But when you're speaking of choice, I had this conversation actually twice today with two friends, and we do have a choice in perspective. And I think sometimes we forget that we have that choice in perspective because we fall into old patterns.
Yeah.
And we keep trying to apply these old patterns to different situations. And within that pattern, we keep on hitting ceilings. And it's that ceiling that kind of keeps us stuck in the darkness. Like we keep coming back to that, like, oh, we tried, but we hit here. And instead of breaking through that and seeing like what opportunity lies above and beyond that, we just keep hitting the ceiling, take a few steps in a different direction, hit the ceiling again. And that keeps us stuck in it.
That usually happens too until like something drastic happens and like life kind of forced you out of it, like what we call rock bottom. And then it's like there's no way but up type of thing. But when you're saying that too, it reminds me of, I think a lot of times people choose to be stuck because of like that want for validation or to be heard or to be seen or to be soothed or to be, you know what I mean? Like we want to be nurtured. We want someone to say like, I'm right in my, whatever I'm upset about. We just want someone to like come hug me and something, you know?
Yes.
But I mean, you can still be supported without putting yourself.
But we also need to be, when we get stuck in that place, we need to be flexible in being vulnerable and opening ourselves up to that which will help us get unstuck so that that support isn't in vain.
Well, that's one of the hardest things, I think, is when people are in those places to be vulnerable, not just vulnerable with others, but a lot of times people have a hard time looking at themselves of like what's really bothering them or what's really causing them to feel like they're feeling like, you know, it can be until it becomes like a practice or like something you're comfortable with doing. It can be really hard just to look in the mirror, you know, and say like, oh, this is my stuff. Okay. So anyway, if you hear Dark Night of the Soul, if we start there, what comes up for you around that?
When I think of Dark Night of the Soul, I feel like it is, we're kind of pushing into a new paradigm for ourselves and for our experience, but yet we're held back by the old stuff. So the Dark Night of the Soul is like really addressing those things. And I'm almost like seeing it as like the chrysalis of the butterfly, you know, where it's like it's trying to break through, but until like it deals with actually breaking through that chrysalis, it can't get out and fly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's just that excess baggage of that shit that's literally weighing you down, and taking a look at it and seeing like, why is this tied to me that it's weighing me down? Figure it out and figure out how to cut that off so that you can release that weight. But a lot of times I feel like, and I've been there and I go in and out of it at times too, is that I look at the weight and I'm like, oh my God, why are you still there? Why are you attached to me? Like, what do I have to do to get you gone? And I know what I have to do, but I don't do it, you know? So I keep it looking in different directions of like, what do I have to do to get this gone? And I look over there, but the reality of it, it's like, it's sitting right in front of me. Like, just do that one thing, you know?
Yeah. And when you say that, it reminds me of too, like the word I just wrote down that comes up for me when I think of Dark Night of the Soul is exactly what you said. And then the layer of resistance, because I think that's what makes it so hellish, is our own resistance and like not wanting to change, not wanting to face whatever it is, not wanting to acknowledge whatever it may be. And it just, that resistance makes it all so much heavier and harder. And you know, I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know that there must be, I wonder if there are people who don't have that type of resistance naturally, like they never did. They just,
I think there are,
go with the flow, you know?
Yeah. But I know some people like that. It's fascinating. I want to study them in a lab.
Yeah.
I'm going to put them in a lab and study them.
But for most of us, especially when we hit two different ways, right? Either some very extreme change happens in our life that throws us into a tailspin of discomfort or the unknown or feeling lost or feeling afraid and fear and all of these things. Or there's something in us that's bubbling up that wants to change. And again, we're resisting for whatever reason because of the fear, the this, the that, the that.
Mm-hmm.
So those two words come to mind around it, like change and then resistance. And obviously those two aren't going to be
And
fun.
I think that it's important to shed light on those two aspects because those two aspects are both created in our own personal world.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm creating the want and need for change, but I'm also creating the resistance. So therefore, the responsibility and the capacity to make a different choice lies completely within me.
Oh, another word that we could throw in there for it?
Let's do it. Put it in the pot.
Revelation.
Revelation?
Yes, because a lot of times in the dark night of the soul, I think what is so hard for us is what is revealed to us or the realization of our stuff, just like you were saying before, like, because you do become at some point, like in the midst of the resistance, or when you finally do hit that bottom, or like something just cracks and pops open, you do start to have some realizations of like, oh, this is my stuff. You know what I mean? Which then is like a whole nother can of worms to dig through.
And back to when you said choice and perspective earlier, I mean, it's really too a choice and perspective to look at what the dark night of the soul is. Like, it is the most grandiose opportunity to move forward. You know, like it seems like it's the worst because it's heavy and it's thick and it's dark, but it's the most ample opportunity to push all that shit out of the way and move forward. But I think we see it more as a barrier than an actual opportunity. And I think our perspective on that needs to shift.
So here's the other R word. Like we have change and then like resistance, revelation, but also then just how we relate to it, right? Our relation to the dark night. So I just want to ask you personally, just like have some context of our stories of like how this goes. In any particular time when you felt like you were having that experience of the dark night of the soul or some deep depression or whatever it may have, how it manifested itself, how did you get through that process?
Oh man, how did I get through it? Well, a lot of conversations with friends, and actually one of the more pinnacle times of it was kind of when I was transitioning into this energy work and moving away from, I don't want to say my life or my social group, but things were shifting for me. Like what I was doing with my life wasn't enough anymore. And I knew that my path was wellness and well-being and spirituality. And I knew that. And it kind of hit a fever pitch where it was like, all right, Tiffany, like this is the direction you're going in. And while I wanted it, I was kind of dragging my heels a little bit because there was a lot of things shifting and I needed time for me to change. And part of it was like the yoga teacher training, like how that changed my perception with the philosophies I had learned, how it changed my body, how it changed my energy, how the meditation impacted my life. And it's kind of weird because the more intuitive the more I got clear in these things and like I could see my old shit, and meditation was a huge component of this. The more I got clear by way of meditation and my practices, the more I could see, hear, understand, whatever you want to call it, and the more sensitive I became to energy. So then I started having like an energetic crisis. I started feeling so much more and like seeing people and understanding people beyond what they understood of themselves. And it was making me freaking crazy because, and I'm sure like some of my friends it drove crazy too, because then I was like, I want to help you. Like, can't you see this? And they're like, I don't want to look at my shit. Like, leave me alone, you know? And there was actually some risks in some relationships then as well. And it was really, really hard.
Yeah, I think that's hard for a lot of people who come into this work, the non-attachment part, because I mean, of course, when you see how much this stuff helps you, like there's this, of course you want to help everyone who matters to you. Like, why wouldn't you? But yeah, I think that is one of the hardest things for us to work through is like getting to that space of like, okay, well, their path is their own and the non-attachment part. But your experience is very similar to mine. Same thing. Actually, mine started before I got into this work, and that's what like was the catalyst for me to get into Reiki and meditation and everything. But definitely, when I got into the energy work, you know, the energetic shifts were also like very extreme, but I was also simultaneously like feeding my mind, like taking classes. So I was ingesting a lot of stuff, and I really didn't pause to like let it all acclimate. So I hit another wall and just went into like a tailspin. And the Reiki precepts, those were good for me to meditate on, because what they did for me was help me to acknowledge myself, you know, like be free from anger, free from worry, or do not anger, do not worry, however you choose to say them. But it really made me think like, okay, so what am I worried about and why? And like, what am I in fear of and why? And like, it made me like really sit and observe my stuff. And meditation helped, because meditation trained me to direct my mind, especially when it would want to go into that chaotic tailspin. And I really had that practice of like reeling it in and going like, no, lady, like sit with your shit and like, let's look at this. But it was hard. I mean, it was hard, and I was pissed. And I think one of the hardest things for it too was, even though I had the tools, and even though I was meditating, even though I was observing, even though I was consciously saying, okay, I will work on my stuff, it still had those moments of like, well, what do you want me to do? And that pissed me off even more, because I felt like I was doing everything right. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, it was still very frustrating, because some of what I was resisting, I still wasn't acknowledging. So I guess it's kind of good to look at too. Like sometimes we think we're looking at like, oh, I know exactly what my issue is, but it's like, nah, that's the surface of your issue. You haven't hit that, like, what's underneath it. So,
yeah. And sometimes I feel like the lesson is just learning to ride it out too, you know, instead of trying to solve the problem, just observe what's happening with the ride and say, I know this is here presenting opportunity for me. Like, let me just sit with it and see what that is, versus like trying to force it. Like, so we have resistance on one hand, but then we have force on the other.
Right. Well, it's just like I said, like how I went through that period of ingesting so much and shifting my energy so much, and I had to acclimate. I think the same goes on with this, like, you know, dark night of the soul or depression or like upset, whatever it is. We also have to have that space to let it move through our system. And I think we do a lot of times put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get rid of, instead of just like acknowledging that. It actually got to a point where I can't tell you how many times back then, I would literally just lay on my Reiki table, just like in full surrender, just like crying, like just tears, and just like, just let it run. Like, just let me feel it. Let me cry. Let me just, I don't care. Just because I know this too is an aspect of healing.
I'm writing notes in my phone on my notes, since I don't have my notebook. But when you mentioned like we're doing all the right things and we're trying to face this one thing and figure it out, and it's like it's not, and you said it wasn't that thing. Earlier I was talking to someone about just that. You know, they said like, I think that this is what my fear is. And I said, well, have you faced that before? And the answer was yes. And I'm like, then it seems to me that thing that keeps on popping up that you're trying to resolve, it might not necessarily be that's masquerading as what the other thing is deep down. So if there's something that you're trying to solve and it seems unsolvable, dig deeper into what that is, because that thing might just be a mask. It might just be running around as the mask, being like, oh, if I could distract her with this thing that she thinks she can't fix, then it's protecting the thing that's deep down that is actually really what will make the shift happen.
We do that a lot.
Oh yeah.
We do that
This is how the ego survives.
Honey, and it will fight tooth and nail and try to like hoodwink you seriously.
Hoodwink for sure. I see it like this little like this little shadow thing with like all these like masks on popsicle sticks in its pockets, and it's just like, what can I get her with today? And it pulls out one mask, and it's like, yeah, she's gonna think it's this one. You know, and it just can keep on like pulling out different masks and tricking us.
Yeah, and it makes me think of the term inner demon. Like some people talk about like, demons and this and that, but we also hear a lot our inner demons, and it's like, yeah, that it's like these different aspects of our mind that we allow to like play these tricks on us. And sometimes we do it intentionally because again, like we don't want to really deal with what is beneath all the layers, even if we're saying we want to.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where triggers are really like a jewel. They're like a little gift from the universe sometimes, because as annoying as they can be, honey, they will often be the thing that like unleashes your beast
100%.
that you were trying to deny.
And can we take a step back? You
Let's
said a gift from the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift from ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we are the universe.
Oh, yeah. Touche.
Right?
Touche, my friend.
Right.
Touche. I didn't want to get too profound because we're both not functioning at high capacity today. So I didn't want to take us too far where we couldn't come back from it. But you are right. You are right. Yeah. So, our triggers have been created by us and sponsored by us. And we said like somewhere we're like, they've been sponsored by us, like we've been like, yeah, if we set this trigger up for her later down the line when she needs the lesson, or she needs like to recognize that this is the thing that needs to be taken care of now because whatever new circumstances, we're going to trigger her with that.
Yeah. I like where we're going with this because I mean, really it brings to mind the question, like really what is dark? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
We have, and I get like we're in this realm of duality and it's like, oh, but really when you look at these things, and again, perception that we talk about all the time, I mean, it really is like has a great potential to help you heal and to help you transform and to help you move out of your way and finally get towards what it is you have been claiming you want along anyway. You know what I mean? So
as your resident Scorpio, I highly advocate for the dark stuff, just getting in there with it. It's not that scary. It's like, yeah, the shadows of the monsters are much greater than the actual monster is.
Mm-hmm. And when you turn on the light, those shadows dissipate. They're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to admit something real quick.
Okay. I
watched a scary movie and I had to sleep with the lights on the other night. The lights really do work.
No, they really do.
So find your inner light, shine it on the little scary monster, and then see how not big it is and be like, oh. And actually the monster might actually be kind of cute. And you might want to take its little hand and be like, let's work on this together.
Yeah, especially when you understand like why you may have, had set this up for yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because like in a lot of ways, our fears or like the stories that the ego creates, it's doing it from a space of thinking it's protecting you, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's not malicious. So, it's like if you look at like, okay, well, I'm not making a move because I'm afraid and I don't want to fail. I don't want my feelings hurt, or I don't want to be criticized. It's like, oh, look at you protecting your little self. But it's not necessary because, but if you look at it and you start to deconstruct and ask yourself the questions and you start to recognize why it's not necessary. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I actually interviewed a girl today for my podcast and she said something like, even if you're afraid, do it anyway. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and sometimes it just is that simple. Like we have to tell ourselves like,
don't jump off a bridge. Like,
no, I have discernment. Okay. Capital D, everybody, discernment. Okay.
I just had to throw that in there.
Wait, now since you said that, I have to share this with you. So
okay.
Was at the Reiki.
Was it a time you were scared to do something silly as an adult?
Please no, honey, I use discernment.
I was talking about me admitting turning the light on before I went to bed the other night. It's okay. I can handle this on my own.
I thought I was going to pee my pants this morning driving home at 4 a.m, but luckily I made it. I mean, I could have been that to you. I was terrified. Okay. I was like, come on. And, like as you get closer to home, it gets worse. It just was like intensifying. I was like, please, body, please. Please. But I made it.
Oh, good.
So that's my admission. fudge. What was it? Oh, discernment. Okay, so for example, so like the precepts, right? The Reiki principles. Um, do not anger, do not worry, right? So my teacher gave the example in class this weekend of, someone might hear the precept of like, do not anger, do not worry. But like without discernment, someone can hear do not worry. It doesn't mean like go jump in front of a moving truck because you're not worried about being hit. Like,
yeah,
have common sense. Like, you still have to have discernment. And, anyway, I just thought that would help somebody out.
My mind started going somewhere with that, but then it quickly derailed. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess one of the things, and again, depending on if obviously what we're talking about is situational. I mean, some things people, again, go through like extreme depression and have to do like more, like they need support and help and things. And that's not what we're talking about. But, like these types of scenarios where we can navigate them on our own. I mean, one of the best things you can do is kind of like when you're sitting in that, crying, losing your stuff, whatever, once all that kind of moves out of the way and you have at least like a moment of where you can breathe, ask yourself, like, what is this about? What is it really about?
Yeah. And since you brought up discernment, going back a few steps, being able to discern when you need supports, when you actually need professional help, when you just need support, or when you can work it on your own and you're just kind of being a little stubborn brat about it. Because I know I'm a stubborn brat a lot of times with things, but I have sought out professional help. I seek out the support of friends when it's necessary, like be able to discern when those situations call for what. And, going back to, I forget what we had said earlier, but I was picturing like peeling back the onions of the layers of the onion, like if there's legitimate childhood trauma or even like adult trauma that needs to be address it with a professional. Like there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken about you. Go get the help that you need, and trying to put on, the mask on the dark night of the soul and just say like, oh, I'm just going through a dark night of the soul. When you have legitimate stuff that hasn't been worked out professionally yet and it's necessary, just go do that. Like, get that shit out of the way so it makes the other stuff easier to deal with.
And that's another thing too. I'm glad you said that. It also reminds me of and speaks to how personal these processes are, because for some people, like for me, like going through it was hard. Listen, it was like 7 years long. Okay. It was a long drive. I mean, I had good days in there, but it was a hell of a process, right? It may have been easier had I worked with other people I was doing it, but I just hard-headed, whatever. But yeah, I think it's really good to acknowledge like what you actually need, like what will make you feel best supported, and really being honest about that. That's like one of the best things you can do. And also knowing that with all of this stuff, right? Like say you're going through like a healing crisis right now, or you're going through a stressful time right now, or you feel like shit is hitting the fan today. It won't necessarily be, who knows, it could be only a week long and then you feel better and then you go for a week of feeling great and then something triggers and you feel like shit again. Don't beat yourself up over the process, because it is like unlayering and it just,
And another analogy that I like to use and tell people is that, I oftentimes like hear people are like working it out and like they're thinking about it and stuff. However, getting that shit out of your system, getting it out of your head, like dumping it into a journal. I don't care if you write it in the journal and set it on fire, but by way of getting all of that stuff out of your head, it's going through the process of you're feeling your hand writing it, your eyes are seeing it, you're touching the paper that it's on. If you choose to rip it up, tear it up, you're touching that. You can engage all your other senses versus just having it in your head floating around. And so by making it more tangible with those other senses, it's coming out of your body. It's almost like you're doing this like due diligence of getting it out. And it's the same thing with like having a friend. Like, if, speaking it out to a friend rather than just to yourself, it's going to help diffuse the energy of that thing
Yes.
rather than it just living and moving around in your body and ping-ponging around.
Try
Get that
not
shit
to,
out.
you're reminding me of too, another thing with this is try not to act like out of the emotion while you're in the thick of it. Like it is
Good,
good to like write or
good
like
call.
move your body, go talk to a friend. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
honey, if you pop off and you're in one of those states, who knows what you will say or do, and you cannot take it back. No apology in the world is going to retract the words you spoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like really, that's like one of the, it does take a lot of discipline and it takes a hell of a lot of like self-restraint. But when you feel your inner demon on fire or like you feel that like, ooh, honey,
Yeah.
let it out, cry, journal, run, call a friend, whatever. But
Yeah. And remember too that it's just excess energy that doesn't have a home.
yes,
So it's
doesn't know
just
where to
kind of
go.
like it's floating around and it's like a wire. What do you call it when the wire is like
Live
cut?
wire.
It is yeah, that's it. So easy. A live wire. It's like a live wire just kind of going all over the place. Like just let the energy help it find its home, help it find a focus so it can ground down whatever that may be, and then reassess what it is you're actually dealing with.
Yep. That is a really, really, really good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Good night, folks. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
And sane. We hope that you're feeling better. But high stress. So let's talk about that for a minute because I mean, very specifically, because that seems to be one that's like very common, you know, even if someone hasn't necessarily gone through the dark night of the soul or had like a very extreme, like, you know, something that sent you into like a,
Mental breakdown.
yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
that's fair. That's
Um,
fair.
like just something that is high stress, which can wreak havoc on your mind, your body, your everything, your entire
Yeah.
system. What about that? Like, how? What do you notice in yourself when you're in that very stressful situation, and how do you tend to deal with those?
Well, um, high stress situations that call for high stress, like emergencies, I'm actually very good at. High stress that I create in my own mind, my historical temperament with that has been all over the place. And I used to be very bad at it, to be
I
quite
like the
honest.
distinction, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Well, my mom always said that she worried about like if something serious happened. I'm like, don't worry, I got that covered. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm calm, cool, and collected. Somebody's
My girls
arm
are
fell
good
off.
for that.
That's good. I got it. We'll tourniquet. We'll get them. Like everything will be fine. Um, but I think for me, what I've learned, and I actually was interesting. I had a situation come up today, and in the past, it would have been very stressful to me. And I realized it could have been a stressful situation, but I made a choice this time, and I was like, there's no need for me to get my body all worked up. Like I'm already sick. Like why would I get more worked up about something and damper my immune system only to like make matters worse when it's like just deal with it, you know? And in the past, like this situation would have sent me off the freaking cliff. Like I would have been calling my mom crying. I would have been yelling. I would have been like poo-pooing everything, like the system's broken, da 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 da, like then nobody's any good. Like and legitimately, like my head would get all like, my brain would feel like it'd be shaking in it. I could feel like tingles in my system. That's how bad my anxiety and stress were. And it was a pattern that I just kept going into. Like I would just move right into that because I'm like, oh, here's another thing that's going to destroy life.
Right, right.
But I've done a lot of work on it. I've done a lot of work from like therapy with professionals to yoga, meditation, Reiki, like all this stuff. And I'm constantly working on that. But I think the biggest thing that really helped me turn it around was to recognize how I actually felt physically, mentally, and emotionally. And if the answer to that was bad, and it was mostly like really, really bad, then I'd have to say, how important is this thing that I'm creating this level of stress about when it's actually hurting me, mind, body, and soul?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I had to take a real look at the damage that the stress was doing. And typically the stress was something I created, you know, and now I find myself too, if I'm walking into to situations that are stressful that I can't necessarily control. And if I also cannot change my mind about it, then I got to leave it.
You just reminded me of, I'm not laughing at what you're saying, but you just reminded me of, this isn't high stress, but it's the thing that used to be like my big trigger. It still triggers me now, but more subtly. I don't do well with when things don't make sense to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't mean like I don't understand, something in trigonometry. I mean, like if somebody says something and it's so off the wall and I'm like, what? Like, come again?
That's not what you used to say.
I better now. Huh? Look at booty on my shirt even.
You don't want to share what your little quip was that you used? You don't have to. I won't force you into it, but I like it. You don't want to. It's okay.
No, it's okay. But I don't know which one because I had a couple. So which one?
Oh. Okay, I'm Yolanda. When she hears something that that doesn't make sense to her. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Oh my God. That was, yes, honey, it was just like automatic. It would just like fall out of my face. Like, that's the dumbest shit I ever heard. Like, what? Yeah. But, working on myself and all. One of the things, though, that would really stress me out. Like,
yeah, I get it. I get it.
Really stress me out. And it would boggle my brain. Like, they said what? They did what? Like, what? Like, it would disturb my whole universe, right? And so when I was working on that, which I still do, I mean, again, it's more subtle now, but still, it's a practice. And one of the first things I'd have to ask myself is like, does it matter? Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I really, and that's how, like, I have to check myself. So I say that to say, like, sometimes you have to come up with your own little, like, keywords or phrases or a question or something that kind of, like, snaps you back to, what the hell? Like, why do I even care? Like, this does not change my life. This is not affecting, like, nothing to have to do with me. Like, why do I care? And a lot of times it would point to, like, obviously my judgment, but then, like I don't need to control what someone else's path looks like. If that's what they want to do, more power to them. If that's what you know what I mean? So it just, again, like, breaks down so many things to where I really do. Like, now I'm just like, yeah, that's ridiculous. And then it's as simple as that. Or like, sometimes I'm just like, that's interesting. But it doesn't sting my body. Like, it isn't like, my head isn't going to fall off. So yeah, like, also, yeah, think of like what your things are. Cause like we all have those things that kind of set us off, no matter how small they may be or seem. And it's just, like you said earlier, like the patterns. And it's ridiculous that something that small would like trigger me and like disturb my whole day, right? But that's the thing, is like, we have to get to know ourselves and recognize what our things are. Like, what are the things that stress you out? And what are the things that make you upset? And what are the things, and there's nothing too big. There's nothing too small, obviously.
Yeah.
And get to know it and start like checking yourself.
And it might seem overwhelming, or some of the triggers might seem too small to even like bother acknowledging it, but it's a practice, and it might be good to start with the small things and start working with them, because trying to control the bigger triggers is going to take a lot more energy. It's going to take a lot more practice. It's going to take a lot more repetition. So I like how you said nothing too small. Like, pay attention to the small things, because the small things lead to bigger things, and the small things are a great place to practice. I also like how you said check yourself. I think it's really important. Like, start learning how to check yourself and what you're checking yourself for, because everybody's going to be different. I feel it very much in my body. And for me, like, when I feel bad things in my body, it's no good. So
there's two parts too that I really want us to point out in this. Is one, acknowledging that feeling like crap sometimes and dealing with the tough stuff is part of the process. Part of the healing process. It's part of the self-acknowledgement. It's part of all of it, right? But also, again, highlighting the choice that you don't have to hold on to. It's kind of like, sometimes someone will be mad. Like me, okay? Like, I can think, like, really, like, I can think I was real special. Like I'm thinking more like early
You
20s.
still are very special.
No, honey, a different kind of special. Like late teens, early 20s, right? Like if I thought I was right about something, and if I was like, you know, I don't know, just whatever it was I was upset about, I would stay, like I would cling to that upset like it was my best friend. Do you know what I mean? Because I felt so right in my whatever it was I was upset about. But it's like hindsight, like why? What are you doing? Like, what are you trying to prove? And you're like, I'm so upset about this. Let it go, okay, honey. Go have a donut and chill out. Like, yeah. So sometimes too, it's a matter of like we're clinging to the upset for some reason. I don't know what. I do know really what I want to say. It's back here somewhere,
Yeah.
but I've been up for a very long time.
Well, when we cling to the upset, I mean, that's like what we were stating earlier in the conversation. That's kind of the trigger too, you know, and it's a comfort zone. Like, why am I comfortable in this pattern and not breaking through the ceiling? Because maybe I'm fearful of what's beyond that ceiling and what change it's going to require. And even though that might be a glass ceiling and you could see how good it is up there, it's still going to be kind of painful to break that glass.
Right.
And so we're weighing out the risk and the unknown reward sometimes. And sometimes we'd rather just stay in mediocrity that is known and comfortable.
We are so complex.
Ugh, we are.
I just know, like, if you, whatever it is that you're going through, like, you know, again, as shitty as it may feel sometimes, it reminds me of that Marie Forleo lady. You know, have you ever heard of her?
I feel like I have, but I don't know why.
She does like she has like her thing is like helping entrepreneurs or something like this. But she has this phrase, she always says, everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like really keeping that in the back of the mind, even when we don't know how we're going to get through it. We don't know when it's going to end. We don't know like what the hell, like we cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. You do have to remind yourself sometimes in those spaces of like, this isn't going to last forever. And there is another solution. And there is, you know, another feeling that I'm about to tap into. I just got to work through this and it's okay.
Yeah.
And again, like, don't judge yourself through the process. Don't try to force or like, can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
Sometimes though, you can fake it in those spaces, and it's know when you're faking it to avoid versus like this, for example. If I'm in a space where I'm like dealing with a lot of stuff and the last thing I want to do is talk to, I don't want to interact with anyone. I don't want to do anything. Okay. Like I just want to be by myself in my little sadness or whatever it is. Right. But sometimes you do have to act, you have to like go to work or you have to do whatever. So you have to put on that like mask in certain environments, but remember to take that thing off. You know what I mean? Like don't put on a show for yourself, because there are times where we do have to, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just actually, I was writing an article about this that somebody gave me the topic to write about.
Oh.
It's almost done.
Post it in the show links.
I'm not done with it yet, but I will.
Whenever you do, yeah. Okay. I put it on the Facebook page.
Sorry, I put it on the shelf, which was actually what I was going to say. I put the article on the shelf for a little bit. I was really getting into the writing, and then I stopped. I'll go back to it. Then I'll put in the show links when it's done. What I was going to say, within that article, I did state something about like, yeah, you do have to do these things like going to work and stuff, and you can't take your Dark Night of the Soul cape with you, because that's just not going to work out. You know, they're going to be like, who the fuck is this showing up to work? Like, you don't work here. But like, and not even putting on a mask, but just put that shit on a shelf. Like whatever you're working on, put it on the shelf. It's sure shit not going to go anywhere. It's going to sit there and be like, we're going to wait for you to come back.
Right.
Because we want a piece of this. So it will be there. Put it on the shelf. Go do what you got to do. Come back to it.
But that's
you don't even have to wear any masks.
But this is the thing that's so crazy about it, right? It takes so much more strength to put it on the shelf or put on your mask, to pull yourself together, to function when you feel like crap. It takes so much self-will and determination to do that. So if you are going through something and you have that ability to pull yourself together to deal with your life, you surely have the strength to get through this situation. Do you know what I mean? Like, remind
absolutely.
yourself of that too, because honey, it takes a lot.
And I'll tell you a few things that actually like really help this. Go the fuck outside. Like, if it's in your pajamas or whatever it is you're wearing on the couch and eating bonbons in, just go outside the door, get some fresh air, go walk in nature, move the body. Go outside, move the body. Like,
wait, hold on, pause for the cause. We live in San Diego, and it's like chill. Everybody's
I know,
like,
you're right.
no. There are some cities where you might do that, and they will call some authorities thinking there's something wrong with you. So
my argument is that they're prepared
your environment.
My argument is that they're prepared for it. They have the right boots, the scarves, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't think about that, but that is my argument. If you try to get me to go outside in those, I surely would die. But even so, I mean, like, people do like the polar bear plunge because it's like renewing, you know, they do it like in New Year's. It'll be like the polar bear plunge.
You know what really helped me a lot during one of my, like a version of like what felt like a dark night of the soul, not as extreme as the one I had when I came into energy healing, but another one that was, it was hard for me because it was the first time I had ever experienced anxiety attacks. So I really thought, like, I was the kind of person, like, I would never call my mom to tell her, like I'm worried about something. No, I thought I was dying, like, because I had never experienced them before. I felt like my heart was falling out, and I called my mom, like, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with me. But really, what helped me in that particular cycle, guess what it was?
I can't wait to hear it. What?
Yoga.
Just kidding.
That's when I found Bikram.
Yeah.
And that movement of my body, and that just like giving myself the 90 minutes every day after work to just like do that, honey, that was like heaven.
We have to go back again. There was something that you said before we went off on this tangent that reminded me of an analogy that was really good, but I can't remember what the things were. So I'm going to tell you what the analogy is.
Okay.
So I surf. I haven't in a while. The waters are really fucking cold. Sorry, I'm swearing a lot tonight. I apologize to anybody that I'm offending. I'm sick and tired of being sick. Anyways, surfing.
There's no judgment here.
Okay, great. So surfing sometimes, or even like if you're just in the ocean, a wave can take you under, and it'll flip you upside down, and you don't know what's up or down or right or wrong. And you're not supposed to fight the wave, like, because if you fight, you're going in a direction that you can't find which way is up. So what you're supposed to do is, we call it the washer machine. If you get like tumbled into the washer machine of the ocean, you have to relax and ride it out. I mean, obviously protect your head from the surfboard and other things, but you have to just relax until you can come out of it. But trying to fight it is going to make it worse.
Yeah. That reminds me of like what they tell you when, like in elementary school or somewhere where they tell you like, don't fight. Like if you're in the ocean and there's what is it, like that
rip current?
Yeah, the rip current, like not to do something.
Yeah, don't spaz out because then it'll take you under. Also swim parallel to the shore.
Good tips.
You ain't gonna get out of that.
Now you know.
Perpendicular.
Now you know, beach
North
bunnies.
to south.
Great tips before summer.
Yes.
Wait, so we're almost at the hour, but I have to say this because all of this is also bringing up for me, which I think will be great for us to talk about in the community discussion next week, is how we deal with people that we care about who are going through these times. Because a lot of people struggle with how to be of support to people in their lives when people in their life are the ones that are going through the stress or the dark night.
You just opened up a big pail of worms. It's not even a can of worms. It's like a giant pail of worms.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys will come for that. That will be on our live event next week, next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Do we know what time yet or not yet?
No, we don't know yet.
We'll keep you posted on the exact time.
Yeah.
But yeah, because that can be just as challenging for a lot of us, you know? I mean, it's like really hard to deal with our own stuff, but sometimes it can be harder watching someone that you love or care for or whatever, a friend, whomever, and they're suffering.
I will say before I forget, and so that we can come back to this and apply it to next week's discussion, is that I think in order to be able to do that well, to support somebody else going through this, is to get your own shit out of the way.
Mhm.
So being able to identify what yours is and not taking on what they're going through as your own, because sometimes that will bring up our stuff.
Honey,
And
don't you
then
open this can of worms. Don't. You're making my mind go, and I'm about to respond to what you're saying. I'm like, save it. Don't
this
say
is just,
it.
I just wanted to put a to be continued sentence out there so that we could revisit it.
Such a lovely cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wonder if we even answered the question that was like posed for us in this topic. We did. I mean, I feel like we said a lot, but again, I'm running on fumes. So I don't know. Do you think we did?
Shall I check it? Oh, I didn't keep that window open. Dang it.
It was how to come out of
how do you come out of the dark and high stress, depression?
Well, I think what we kind of said is like sometimes you just sit in the dark. Like sometimes you sit in the dark, but know that it's okay to be there.
Right.
What else do we say?
Don't attach to the darkness.
Yes.
I think is a great point.
Your perception is key.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Resistance. Yep. Check yourself.
Seeing the dark as opportunities versus obstacles.
Oh, and what was your point about recognizing the type of help you need?
Yeah. Yes.
Depending on what the situation is.
And there's one thing I want to say about that too. I know that there's an unfortunate stigma around talk therapy. But if you haven't been to talk therapy for whatever reason, and you're wondering, now that we've brought it up, you're wondering like, geez, I don't know how to discern what I should be going to professional for or what I should be dealing with on my own. And if you don't know, then just go to a professional. I have been told by some where they're just like, you're okay. Like you could just go figure that one out on your own. Like you don't need me, So the professionals can also help you figure that out.
And another thing with that too is like, just like you're saying, like one, don't have judgment around the type of help that might feel right for you.
Yeah.
Knowing that, different strokes for different folks. Like, some people, they may tell you like, oh yeah, that's not the way to go, but you don't know, like that might really be what you like. And like, especially if you want to just be heard, like sometimes people just want to get stuff off their chest. They just want to let, and they don't want to be judged and they just need to get it out. That would be a great space for you. But keep in mind, you also have to find the right person. So I say that to say, like, don't be discouraged if you go to a therapist, or even if you go to like a Reiki person, or you go to a yoga teacher, like whatever tools or people you go to see for whatever you're working out, try a couple, because you may have to try a couple to find the person that you feel really connected to.
That's a really great point. And I almost went down that rabbit hole, but I stopped myself. But I'm glad you went down it, because I want to jump on the coattails of it. Remember that even though they're professionals, they're also human beings too, with their own shit. And you would hope that they would have worked it out. Yes. But it's just like any relationship on this planet. You're going to jive with some people and you're not. So that's okay. Like, don't lose hope. Just get an understanding of what it is you need and keep pursuing that.
I'm really lucky that I have a friend who is actually a therapist. Actually, I have a couple of friends who are therapists. One is a psychologist and one is a therapist. Actually, yeah, and I have a couple of counselor friends. Now I think about it, I have like a whole pack of, man, I've got some great resources.
I want some of that.
I need to start taking advantage of them.
My friends think I'm the therapist.
Yeah, well, me too, right?
Well, like, who do I go to?
I go float.
Yeah, that's
good. To do. I haven't done that in a while. And that too, like how we were saying earlier too, like mix it up a bit. Like there isn't just one way to work through these things. Yeah. And like, even if like journaling works for you for a week and then you hit a block with that and you're like, I'm writing and it's still not fucking working. Like try something else. Like maybe that's where you need to go to take a walk or go to yoga or try, floating.
But just try.
Try something
observe else. That you're doing something.
Right.
Give yourself the credit for doing the work.
And try to be present in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Try to allow yourself to focus on what you're doing.
Right. And if you're judging yourself for the way you're doing the work, cut that shit out too.
Yep.
No, just observe that you're doing the work and know that your intention is good, and that should be enough. Don't judge the way that you are doing it or the way that you're perceiving the results of it should be. Just observe that you're doing it, and that should be good enough.
You know what else is nice? I have to say the Mind Body Energy Project has really cultivated a lovely community of people, like really beautiful, supportive, funny people. Yeah. And, you know, share your experiences, like on the Facebook page under the video, share, you know, like some of the things that work for you, share what has come up for you, even share some of your challenges. Because I bet you someone else who tunes in or is part of the community may also have some suggestions that we didn't even cover. So
yeah, for sure.
You know, this space is about all of us. So please, like, share whatever's coming up for you. And
if you want it to be anonymous, you could send us an email and we'll post it on Facebook. I mean, you won't be anonymous to us, but we won't tell.
Yeah, we won't tell.
Yeah, your secret's safe with us. But we'll be happy. Yeah. We'll be happy to be the vehicles to get that information out there, so you can watch from afar and see what the answers are.
Yeah. Yes, that's a lovely suggestion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, so feel free with that one anytime, actually, not just to this particular topic. And then, so we hope to see you for the live event next week. And as always, we are so thankful for you all being here, for tuning into the podcast, because you know, you help us grow. You can help us grow even more by leaving a review on iTunes if you like the show. Okay.
If you don't like it,
just skip it. Just you don't.
Skip the review.
Just if you like it, go ahead, give us 5 stars.
Yeah.
Write a review, and thank you, of course, to our Patreons. Could you?
We are also open to suggestions, Patreons. If you have specific things that you want as your bonus content, we are always happy to field those suggestions as well and curate that for what your needs are. So let us know if there's something that's helpful to you.
And I'm just checking since we're here really quick to see if we have any new reviews since we're here, because we love to acknowledge people.
Oh, you're gonna look.
So we have more ratings. Ooh, thank you guys for rating the show. Yes, we do have more ratings. No new reviews, but more ratings than we had before. So thank you so much for that.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like a birthday present every time we get one.
I know.
And we know how much I love my birthday. And we know how much Yolanda loves presents. So
yes. Together. Yeah, we're a mess. So I'm glad that we both got through this conversation.
Yeah, we did it.
Helpful for you all, and you know.
I really enjoyed this conversation. Maybe we should do it in like our lesser states of being more often.
Yeah. Yes. Every time we're like exhausted, it's the best time to do the podcast, because we're not thinking. We're just like,
yeah. Something to consider. But on that note, au revoir.
Au revoir, mon ami.